First of all, good evening, everyone. This is Toby Green. I am here with in the G51 studios, hosting kind of a somber podcast tonight titled Rest in Power, Scott. Normally this part of the show, oftentimes I'll read a poem or create a poem or something just kind of gets the feeling in the air. But instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the story directly. I want to encourage people. Actually, I'm going to read a snippet of it. I really want to encourage you to click on the link that I've put in the header of these, or the description, of this podcast. Please go and click on Payday Report, hit this story out of the park. They told a story that needs to be told more of, which is that the reality of this crisis goes beyond the big world. And I've been talking a lot about stock markets and pandemic and the response and this and that and everything, and that's all important stuff. And I'm going to continue doing it. But realistically, what matters is the stories that I'm going to tell a little bit of, and then I really want you to click on the link. Shout out to Mike Elk, who's a wonderful reporter, wonderful labor reporter. He's true blue, great writer. Started the Payday Report a few years ago and has been busting his rear end ever since, and is just a fierce and dedicated reporter, and frankly deserves all the awards, if there were awards, for the story, at least a little bit I'm going to tell. So this is AStU, which is the Amalgamated Transit Union, shop steward who warned of COVID-19 dangers. He ended up dying from it. March 27, 2020, article by Mike Elk. Today, the Amalgamated Transit Union announced the death of Scott Ryan, a 41-year-old bus driver and father of three from Everett, Washington, who had warned his members against the dangers of COVID-19. The tragic reality of this devastating and deadly pandemic has now taken the life of one of our own. I hope the entire continent will join us in a moment of silence tonight at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time to remember local 1576 shop steward Scott Ryan, who was just 41 years old, said AStU International President John Costa. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Brother Ryan and his sisters and brothers of local 1575 in Linwood, Washington. So, some thoughts, some just kind of random recollections, or not recollections, that's not the right term, just some thoughts about this. There's been a couple thousand victims. We're now over 100,000 cases worldwide, and it's expected to continue to explode. So why is this story hitting me hard? Well, first of all, to you folks out there, let's start with the very basics. To you folks out there who know nothing about unions, or maybe you're a friend of mine, or maybe you're listening to this and you don't understand what being a union steward is and being a union member, let me be real clear what a steward is. Let me dispel any fantasies you might have. Being a union steward is the most important job in the union when it's done right. This is the person who, when your butt is in trouble or the boss is trying to get rid of you for no good reason, this is the person who's going to fight for you. And this is the person who's going to give you some tough love and give you the hard as nails message and say the truth to you. This is that person. And they will tell you straight up what needs to happen and what doesn't need to happen. And they will fight for you depending on what the situation is in your specific case. If you're a numbskull and you're really screwing up, okay, that's one thing. Even then, they'll still try to help you. They're the best co-workers you could ever happen to have. They are amazing. So when I talk about this story, I need you to understand that. Because without that, you aren't going to get why this impacts me, why I care. Second piece, and I've been a steward at multiple times in my life. I know how important that work is, and I know how hard it is. Second piece, as important as all that. For me, personally, he was a 41-year-old man. I'm 41. Why does that matter? Who cares? Because everything on the report has been telling us is that, it's old people and really young people and 4% of the population is going to die. It don't matter. Their statistics are crap, okay? Their statistics are crap, okay? I don't know his medical history. I don't care about his medical history. It doesn't matter. He was 41, father of 3. Probably had another 20 years to go. Hopefully get to retirement. And he was looking to get there probably. Had a wife. Probably, I'm just assume. I don't know the first thing about Scott, so I don't want to come off pretending that him and I went way back and we were buddies. I didn't know him until this article came out. Didn't know the first thing about him. But I feel connected in that sense. Because I guarantee, because I know what it's like to be 41, I guarantee what he was going through. It's real. And it's legit. And what's real and legit is that he was probably looking at it going, okay, my kids are at whatever ages they're at. Don't even know the kids. Don't know the whole situation. Don't know. It's not what this is about. But he's probably looking at that whole situation going, okay, I'm at this point in my life. I got 15, 20 years, 25 years, 24 years until I get to retirement. I'm driving a bus. I'm taking care of people. I'm getting them there. I'm getting them to one place to another. I'm dealing with all the headaches that a bus driver has to deal with. And then a pandemic happens. And I get super sick. It's a heartbreaking story. And you know what's heartbreaking about? Is that this person ended up, and I really want to again send you the article, he told very simply to his coworkers on February 28th, this podcast that you're listening to right now is called 14 Days in March. Hell, if Mr. Ryan was the host of this podcast, I'd call it One Day in February. Because he got up, him and 9 other bus drivers came down with COVID-19. And he said this in a page. Again, please go to the Payday Report. Please support Mike Elk's work. Like I said, I can't say enough about how important this article is. And I'm going to speak about why this is important a little bit more in detail as we kind of move through the show. He wrote this. Our buses under normal circumstances are germ tubes on wheels, Ryan wrote. Quote, now we introduce a disease that 0 people have been vaccinated for and has an incubation date of up to 14 days without showing symptoms. My personal thought, we are high-risk ticking time bombs for being exposed to someone with it. Quote. 1 month later, almost to the day, he was sadly proven right. This disease, with everything that they're doing, is real. It's a killer, and it's going to kill people. Do you understand me? And it's going to get worse. It's going to get way worse. And I bring this all up to say this. That when I see, I'm going to transition now. So I just want to send my condolences to Mr. Ryan's family, to the AStU union, to all the sadness and sorrow that they are feeling, to everybody who's hurting out there, anyone who knew him, just condolences. Because I'm gonna take a brief break here because I want to switch gears here, and what I don't want to do is mingle 2 subjects and turn this into a prop. I just need you to know that this hits me emotionally because one of the things that I could rest my head on, not so much that, oh God, it wasn't going to be me. That's not where I was coming from. But there was a part of me that was like, oh God, it wasn't going to be me. The reality is no. We don't know who this is going to get. We don't know. All their statistics are bunk. It's real and it's deadly. And he knew it on February 28th. So, Mr. Ryan, the family, everyone, my condolences. I want to thank again Mike Elk as a wonderful reporter for really putting this article out because no one else is writing this. No one else is telling this story. And anyways, I'm going to move on now and I'll be back in just a second. I got to kind of compose myself, so I'm going to compose myself and kind of get myself back. Okay, I'm somewhat composed now. So I want to switch gears here, and I want to talk about some of the big world stuff that's happened. So this podcast, my goal was to nightly podcast from March 13th to March 27th. I couldn't keep it up. I did do a couple podcasts to kind of fill in the gaps, but I'm happy with my output because my thought was when this podcast started on March 13th was that, hey, I'll do it. It'll be a 14-day snapshot, and then it'll be done. And then I can kind of eclipse it and just kind of put it in a time bottle and go bury it somewhere, share it out with people or whatever. That was great. I felt good about. I feel good about what this podcast has been, and in my next episode, I'm going to really kind of reflect on where I was at on March 13th and what's changed in the last 2 weeks. But I want to talk about the stimulus bill that got passed a little bit more because the details have come out. First of all, if you've ever had ibuprofen or Advil, and this is not sponsored or in any way trying to talk about Advil as a product or any of that other stuff. If you've ever had Advil, Advil's the most genius thing ever. Why? Because they put a slightly sweet-tasting coating over the ibuprofen. I'm assuming, and I don't know the history of it, but they put coating over it to allow you to more easily swallow the ibuprofen. I don't know what the history is, and if you're out there, you can reach out to me at runtmg@gmail.com. Feel free to shoot me a note on it. But I don't know the first thing about it. But here's what I feel like about the stimulus bill. This stimulus bill is Advil. It's the coating it's the coating, I should say, not coating. It's the coating over an Advil tablet over decon. So it's like putting rat poison in the middle of bubble gum and having you swallow it. That's what this bill is to me. That's a harsh thing to say. That is an incredibly hardcore thing to say. Okay? So where am I coming from on this piece and why am I talking about it in this way? Well, first of all, let's be extremely clear. I'm talking about this in this way to say that hey, look, this is crap. This bill is a pork-funneled, massive giveaway to corporations. This bill has so much pork in it for corporations, so much welfare in it. Straight-ass welfare, straight-ass corporate welfare. Now, why am I so upset, Toby? Because, Toby, don't you know that if they don't get this corporate money, then the economy will die, and they'll die, and then everybody will die, and then there won't be jobs, there won't be anything, there won't be this or anything. Okay, fine. Let's have it that no major business can go out of business anymore. Because if you're going to do capitalism, at least stick to the real capitalism, because this isn't capitalism. And I hate capitalism even in its purest form, but I hate crony capitalism on top of that. This is cronyism 101 bullcrap that we just got served up. And you know what? You know what the worst part is? People desperately need the money. People desperately need that $2,400 that's going to come out. People desperately need the extra $600 that came out. But let's not make it. Let's not under any circumstances. Under